Welcome to a special edition of United States of Formula One.
For newbies.
I'm Nikki.
And I'm Cookie.
And we've gotten inundated with emails and comments about getting into Formula One. And I love your show.
Yes,
Thank
I've been
you.
stopped in the streets and people are like, dumb this thing down for me. I'm new.
Yeah.
I love what you guys are doing, but I don't understand the basics of it, which is the same way I was 6 months ago. So this is great for me.
Yeah, you're new, I'm newish, and I think that we can go through what we think are the most important things in F1 to just really get into it.
To get you excited.
Just
Okay.
watch it.
So I think the first thing is the teams.
Absolutely.
You know, obviously in football, you have your 32 teams. Everyone wants to know who that is. In Formula One, we have how many teams?
10 teams.
10 teams.
10 teams. So you got Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, Aston Martin.
Okay. Alpine. Williams. RB, which is the sister team of Red Bull, the only affiliated teams on the track. Kick Sauber.
Which is your brother's favorite team.
Yes. And the best team on the track, Haas. Okay. So that's your 10 teams. And if each of those 10 teams, you have 2 racers per team?
Yep.
Okay.
20 drivers.
So let's get right into that. So currently, and this will change, it changes quite a bit more than I thought. Yep. Just being my first season, we've already seen 2 or 3 changes, or we know that some are coming next season.
Yeah, if you're not cutting it as a driver, they will make a mid-season, end-of-season switch.
I mean, it's such a high-dollar sport. And the way I explain it to people, and this is backtracking a little, is that everyone knows IndyCar. You know, your NASCAR is your 2-passenger car, and then you have Indy, which is the guy's head popping out. This is high dollar Indy.
Yes.
Is the way I look at it.
I mean, the amount of money that they put into F1 is just unfathomable.
Yeah.
For me, at least, yeah.
So rattling through the fellas that we have in the cars.
Yeah, and most drivers start in your lower class.
Okay.
In your lower class, which you got F3, actually you have F4, but mainly F3, F2. I would say not 99%, 80%, maybe 100% of these drivers went through F2.
And that was something I asked you early on. It's kind of like a minor leagues. You have minor leagues in baseball, you have AAA, AA. So these guys don't just wake up one day and they're like, I think you'd look good in an F1 car. They have to accumulate enough points in some way to get their F1 license, to safely compete, not kill themselves or other people, and to be worth the money of these teams to say, you can get in my car that's super expensive and go earn me some money on the track.
Yeah, and F1 is the only, if you are in F2, you are a pay to drive. You pay to drive.
Probably have sponsors.
You have sponsors and things like that, but when you get to F1, now you have the big money contract.
So basically, you're starting most likely in F2 and earning your way up. There are other ways. Maybe you can get some points in IndyCar over in the States.
Yeah, it's rare, but typically they go through F2.
Okay. And so currently our drivers are, for Red Bull, we have Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, known as?
Checo.
Okay.
Ferrari, Charles Leclerc.
Leclerc. He's terrible at pronunciation.
Carlos Sainz. Don't put the C there unless you want to say it.
And for Mercedes, we have 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton and George Russell.
Yep. For the Alpine team, Esteban Ocon and...
Esteban Ocon.
I don't think it's Akon, like the rapper.
Yes, it is the rapper.
Pierre Gasly.
And
go ahead.
No, I can't do this. I can't steal McLaren from you. McLaren.
Okay, so I'm going to take the next 2, and then you can have your boyfriend.
Okay.
Okay, so McLaren, you got Lando Norris.
Mando Lando.
Okay. Oscar Piastri. On your brother's favorite team, Haas, soon to be, or not Haas, Kick Sauber, soon to be Audi Sauber, is Valtteri Bottas and Zoe.
And?
I don't know how to say his whole name. Zoe.
You nailed it.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And then Haas, we have Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hulkenberg.
The RB team, Yuki Tsunoda, and we just lost Daniel Ricciardo. Go check out our short. We do a shoey for him.
Shoey short.
And he was replaced by Liam Lawson.
Mm-hmm. And on Aston Martin, we have Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso.
Last but not least, Williams, Alex Albon, and Logan Sargent.
I don't think that's updated.
Logan Sargent, he's still going. You're right. F1's fallen in love. New racer just came out. Franco
Calapinto, the rookie. He's been a stud. And to reference what you said a little bit ago, you mentioned that Kick Sauber they're going to be Gonzo. So they're going to be Audi Sauber.
Audi Sauber.
So let's get into that, because you got an email about what engines are used with what team.
And
this is a great question.
Yes, Eric from Plant City, Florida.
Let's flip back to that slide.
And he asked what engines they're called power units, as F1 calls them, power units.
Okay.
And there is basically 4.
So there's 4 total power units used across the 10 teams.
Across the board. You got Ferrari, Mercedes, Honda, and one team, Alpine, uses Renault.
Okay.
So your boys are in a Ferrari motor.
Okay. So Ferrari motors are used obviously by Ferrari, by Haas, and by Kick Sauber. And then Red Bull uses the Honda. So then obviously their
RB uses the Honda motor.
Their affiliate team. Okay. Then who uses the AMG Mercedes motor?
The rest of them.
Except for Alpine.
Except for Alpine.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's a great question by Eric E. Where did you say he was from?
Plant City, Florida.
We are getting people from Florida.
Yeah, which is fantastic. Let me ask you this, since we have a little bit. Do you know rivalry-wise?
Explain. Like
rivalry-wise, say you are Nico Hulkenberg. Who is your rival?
I would just assume whoever the best racer is.
Your teammate, even though that he is your best friend, he's also your biggest rival.
Okay. That honestly is very counterintuitive to me. So you're saying the guy that you're on the same team with, you're battling side by side with, is actually your biggest rival?
Absolutely. But what you need to do is check out our F1 history show.
Okay.
You got Senna, Prost, 2 of the old school best drivers. Same team, rivalry just to the max.
I guess I kind of understand that. I mean, I understand that the teammates, you're working together every week, but you're trying to prove to your team you're the number 1 driver. There's always like a 1-2.
If you're a number 1 driver, the 2-man wants to be the number 1 driver. He's gonna be battling you.
Okay.
Battling you. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get back into it a little bit more, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to USF1, the special edition, the Newbies episode. And in this segment, we are going to get right into race weekend.
Race weekend starts actually Thursday.
Okay.
Thursday, Friday practices, which if you're really new to you're probably not going to watch practice.
I watch practice every single week.
I believe him.
But so you basically have a practice day where everyone shows up, get the gear ready.
And you'll have multiple practices a day. You'll have one maybe morning, one night, things like that. It really all depends on the racetrack.
But we're not here to talk about practice.
We are not, but let's get into qualifying.
So that's the biggest, getting ready for race days, that qualifying, to see where you're going to start race day.
Yeah, and you really didn't get into qualifying until just recently.
Yeah, I watched it for 6 months and still was not very excited. And then you made me watch it, and I got really into it. The way that I understood it, and I'll try to break it down, is that you have all 20 races, which we went over. They go out there and they run out. You run 3 qualifying.
Yeah, Q1, Q2, and Q3.
So Q1, they all go out.
20 drivers.
The lowest 5 lap times eliminated. And they know that they're going to be starting race day 16 through 20.
Back of the pack.
Then you go to Q2, you have the 15 remaining.
Yep.
Again, lowest 5, knocked out. So now you know if you got to qualify to Q3, you're in the top 10 race day.
You're going to finish higher than where you started.
But you know you're starting top 10.
You're starting top 10. You're starting in the points.
And that's where the points are, is the top 10. And then they do have that Q3 to see then who gets the pole and who's everywhere. So this is the F1 tree. Which you say what?
Lights out!
So on race day, the greatest announcer ever says it's lights out.
Yep, almost every second. And then right where they're at, and the race gets going.
It's so exciting.
It's so exciting.
So then this is a graphic that you're going to see on race day, and this is just showing the top 3. So
you'll see top 20. This will be on your TV on the left-hand side, and it'll show the top 20.
So this is just showing place 1 Verstappen, then Perez, then Leclerc. So you can see that it's showing their place. It's showing their team. So you have Red Bull and Ferrari there, their abbreviation of their name. And then this was a question I actually got from Ben C. in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Okay.
He asked me, what do the plus times mean? Because he logically thought that interval he understood was first place. But then that the plus was that guy is, Perez would be a tenth of a second behind. And then Leclerc.
And then he thought Leclerc was 10 seconds to the leader.
Behind Verstappen, there, behind the leader.
Yep.
But really, explain that.
So they're going to have your every single, let's say, eighth place is going to say 6 seconds. Or it'll say 6 seconds. He's 6 seconds behind fifth place.
Yes, so every place, it's just going to show you how far you are behind the guy that's directly in front of you. So really, for a guy like this, that's tough on race day, because if you're looking at who's in fourth, and say you put some money on him on DraftKings or whatever, you have to do the math. You have to add up the times to find out how far he is back from the leader.
But I also enjoy it too, because then they'll make a pit, put on some fresh tires, and now they're running 2 seconds faster than the guy in front of them. So they know, we have a certain amount of laps now to catch that guy.
And you'll hear that a lot of times. We saw that recently where, someone's in first and they're 30 seconds ahead, and they know, let's get enough ahead that we can pit and still be in first. So they know there's that kind of sweet spot of how much in the lead they need to be.
Yeah, and typically it's only, I think it's like 16 seconds or something like that.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So what does that little guy that was in the bottom right corner next to Leclerc, what does that mean?
So you're going to see that pop up, and it's going to mean fastest lap of the race. Now that'll change. That can change
as the race goes on.
Every single lap, really.
In theory, the guy could get it in the first lap, and it stays that way the rest of the time, or at any time. So the fastest lap only matters if you're
in the top 10. So if you finish in the top 10.
Finish in the top 10 and you have the fastest lap of the race, you get an additional point.
Yep.
So that's always moving around based on who has currently the fastest lap of the race. Okay.
Yep.
So then the other graphic on here, what's there next to the times?
You mean the M and H?
Yeah, the MMH.
So that is the driver, which tire they're going on.
Which took me a while to understand. So I understood that they come in to pit or to box.
Yep.
They never fuel.
Never fuel.
They never fuel in F1, so they have enough fuel to get through the entire race. They only pit to change tires. But there are a ton of different tires.
Yeah, so yes, if we go off of just colors though, you got 5 different tires.
Okay, so I know you have your soft, your medium, your hard, you have an intermediate, you have a wet. Wet's obviously going to be...
If it's downpouring.
So
you got when your wet and your intermediate are going to be your only 2 tires that actually have like your car at home like tread on them.
Okay.
Everything else is going to be a slick tire.
So your soft is going to have your best grip, but it's going to wear the quickest.
It's going to be your fastest tire.
It's going to grip well.
Yep.
So we've seen where a lot of guys have started with hard or medium, and there's maybe a couple of guys that start with softs.
Yep.
So their goal is to advance a little bit early on, but they know they have to pit sooner.
They're hoping. So if you start with soft, you're kind of hoping that a safety car is going to come out at some point.
So you're gambling.
Gain some positions.
Okay.
Get a safety car out.
And then close the gaps.
And then you can go in, change your tires, and put it on a more logical tire.
So to explain the safety car, if you're 30 seconds behind the guy in front of you, safety car comes, it squishes everybody up.
Squishes everybody back.
So you can't pass anyone.
You can't pass anyone.
But that gain that they've made, you've been able to close up. So that's where guys will go out. Okay.
And then your medium tire is your most balanced, and then your hard tire is going to be your longest lasting tire.
Okay.
So if you're looking at your hard, you're planning on hopefully maybe a one stop.
A one stop.
Just do it a one stop.
And they'll show that on that graphic too sometimes of how many times the guys have pit. And you'll see some still at 0 that maybe are on hards, some at 1, and then there's some guys that stayed on soft and they're on their second pit, which that's going to be tough. Speaking of pits, I cannot believe how fast they pit. It's completely insane. You told me, I thought, was it going to be 5-6 seconds to change those tires? I know there's one guy per tire.
I said it was going to be 2, and I think you thought that I was joking.
I thought you were joking.
Yep.
And then they start showing those times, and it is 2.2, 2.3. I think anything over 2.4 or 2.5 seconds is a bad pit.
It's a bad pit. Yep.
I mean, look at this.
This is the world record set by Red Bull, 1.8 seconds. That is absolutely crazy.
Oh my God, that's insane.
It's like he pulls up and he's gone.
And now he's going to go 200 miles an hour and hoping that every one of those nuts, and there's only one on each.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's how they can do it so quick, but that they got it quick enough. I mean, that's completely insane.
So go ahead.
No, this will wrap up this segment. And in the last segment, we're going to get into a specific part known as DRS, which I knew nothing about. I still don't know if I know much about it. So we'll be back with that.
Welcome back to USF1 Special Edition for Newbies.
Newbies.
And we are going to get into one of my favorite things.
Okay.
DRS.
DRS.
Cookie, what does DRS stand for, since you are the newest to the sport, like most people watching?
DRMRS. That's a female doctor.
Yes. No. It stands for Drag Reduction System.
I thought that was funnier. I thought it would get more of a laugh. That's rude.
I loved it. No, it's going to...
Okay.
We'll get plenty of comments on it. So, drag reduction system.
Drag reduction system. That's tough to say.
Yep. So
Okay.
3 times fast.
So explain that to me. I understand it a little now.
Okay. So you're looking at, you got a spoiler wing on the back of the Formula One car.
Rest. Yes.
Basically, when you are in a certain zone, well, we'll get in that. The spoiler opens up.
Okay.
Less drag going through that spoiler.
And you can clearly see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
one open, one closed.
One closed. So it's going to give you 11 miles an hour faster down the straightaway.
So just with that spoiler open, you can get up to 11 mile an hour faster.
Yep.
So the way I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, if you are within 1 second of the racer in front of you, you can engage DRS as long as you're in a designated DRS zone, which every track has that mapped out clearly, usually on a straightaway, that if you're within a second and in that zone, you can engage DRS. Now, you know, okay, this is my chance to catch this guy.
Yep.
So when they're a second and a half, 1.2 seconds, they're like, all right, just get within a second. You can engage DRS. You got to do it.
Yeah.
Is there a way
to combat it?
How did you know I was going to
feel
ask that?
Yeah, I knew that's what I figured. Everybody is wondering that. So
it's almost like we rehearsed.
I know that everyone, if you're new and you're watching and they're going down the track, you're watching the cars go, you're watching the Formula One cars, and you're like, oh, they got brake lights.
Oh yeah, when they're blinking and
blinky, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is a way. So basically, you have a battery in the car. It's a hybrid motor.
Okay.
Okay, you have a battery in the car. They are trying to build that energy into the battery.
Okay.
Okay. So you got multiple different ways with the wheels, and they can actually use a battery boost to try and stop the car behind them from that.
Honestly, I didn't know that completely until you just said that. So I always thought when you're within a second behind, you engage DRS, you catch the guy in front of you. It's almost kind of always just rooting for the guy that's behind the loser. So there is a way for the guy in front of him to fight that 11 mile an hour gain he's getting, and it's engaging that hybrid battery, harvesting the power.
But you got to think you have a certain battery level, like your phone, like anything with a battery.
Okay.
You can't use that every single time somebody's trying to pass you with DRS. You got to build that battery back up throughout the race, and then
So
you
hence
can use
that-
it. And you just got to continuously build that battery up.
Which explains all that communication. You have constant communication between the team and the driver, and it's not just about where guys are on the track. It's when to do this, when to do that, harvest the energy, engage DRS, come around this corner. It's constant.
There's sensors all over that vehicle going back, and they know if there's damage to the wing, if there's something. That's why when you see retire the car, sometimes you're like, what happened? There's nothing wrong with the car. They know that there's something mechanical with the power unit, with the spoiler, something that you just cannot fix, and they'll just say, retire the car. And you're like, what happened? And most of the time, they don't even tell you exactly what happened. So,
we didn't give a little credit here, because this actually, the DRS question, other than me not understanding, is that Zach R. From Wyoming. He was the one who actually said, and we were already thinking about doing it, but he's the one that triggered, we definitely need to do an entire segment on DRS because it's such a unique thing. Now,
well, before we leave that, Zach R. has left me at least 30 different emails and messages on questions. We're gonna try to answer more questions.
So we have a super fan.
We have a absolute.
I'm his super fan.
And Zach is 100% our super fan.
Nice. Now, closing out on DRS. We explained it. It's exciting. I love it. What's happening to DRS in a couple of years?
So in 2026, DRS is gone. So there'll be we'll have to make a new. We'll make another new
okay.
one.
So they're going to
year.
do something else to change DRS, a different speed change, but okay.
Yeah, 100%. We'll make another episode, but until then, thanks for joining, and see you next time.
It's all about the newbies.